What's going on, guys? How to be back, continuing to go through the Fire Emblem series a bit. Next up, we're looking at a bit of a collection of games, as well as the games that caused probably the most indifferent fanbase ever, Fire Emblem Fates. We got 3 different variations to look at this time around, with some differences to look at, so why not take a look at all 3 in one fell swoop, going in order of how I've played them. So, here's my look back at Fire Emblem Fates: Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations. So Fire Emblem Fates has you, literally you, canonically named Corrin, getting summoned away from your castle home by your siblings Xander, Leo, Elise, and Camilla to visit your father for the first time in the capital of the Nohrian kingdom. After some getting acquainted with the controls kind of missions, you are betrayed by your father's minions and are kidnapped by the Hoshidans, the neighboring kingdom to Nohr that are currently at war with. There, you are revealed to actually be blood-related to the Hoshido royal family, alongside siblings Ryoma, Hinoka, Takumi, and Sakura. After chilling with the true fam for a bit, your absolutely not evil sword given to you by your absolutely not still evil father does some evil stuff for some reason, killing your mother, turning you into a dragon. In order to turn you back into human, Azura, a Nohrian child turned Hoshidan in response to you being taken away as a kid from Hoshido, sings a song to turn you back to normal and supplies you with a dragon stone to keep your form. So now, after having both sides of the family going after each other, you must now decide if you will choose to fight alongside your bloodline or choose the family that raised you all your life. So, let's take a break from the overall synopsis for a second. Just say how batty this plot is so far. There's 2 families to care about between 2 kingdoms and cultural designs, child kidnapping, dragon morphing, and the largest watermelons to suction themselves to a human being. And this is all right in the prologue of Fates. Every version of the game gets these chapters. I certainly didn't mind, though. It was a great way to introduce new Fire Emblem players to the series, as well as reacquainting returning vets into Fates' new systems and the differences between the versions, which I'll get to in a second. So, speaking of versions, your initial decision's been made with the copy of the game you got, getting that game's version of the story. So, let's look at the first one that I got, Birthright. So by picking your bloodline, you decide to oppose your Nohrian siblings in an attempt to quell the war between Nohr and Hoshido and reveal the corruption of King Garen to your siblings, all in the hopes of doing all this peacefully. So Fire Emblem Birthright, if we were to compare it to any other game in the series, would be similar to the previously created Fire Emblem Awakening or Sacred Stones. You have a world map, or in Birthright's case, menus to explore, which gives you opportunities to train your units. As well, the story only progresses when you want it to, allowing plenty of chances to level up your units to your heart's content. Also, the overall system of the maps is fairly straightforward. It either involves routing all the enemies or killing the boss. Fairly plain structure to the maps as well. Between that and the aforementioned opportunities to train your units, this causes Birthright to be the easier game of the 3, and honestly, a pretty good first game for people that have never played any Fire Emblem games before. I'll get into some more reasons why at least Fates in general is easier in a little bit. So, by choosing the side of the Nohrian siblings that did raise you all your life, you pursue the Conquest storyline, attempting to help that family that raised you conquer the Hoshidan land next to you, whilst also working incognito to employ your conquering in a more peaceful manner, and to discover the reasons behind your father's mean streak he has been on. If we are going to compare this to another Fire Emblem, I'd say Blazing Sword would be its closest comparison. Unless you purchase DLC levels, there's little to no sidetracking when it comes to multiple levels. You normally just go from story level to the next one back to back. The level structure is where Conquest really shines though. The vast majority of the levels have either a unique map structure, making routing enemies extra entertaining, or an actual objective to accomplish, like reaching the end of the map or discovering a traitor on a large ship before he kills all the crew members. If you want a ball-busting good time, veterans should definitely pick up Conquest first. Even on normal difficulty, this game can get really hard, especially if you're trying to keep everyone alive, which is usually my main goal for the most part. Newcomers should aim to play Birthright first, like I said, and really only come back to Conquest if you're comfortable with how the game's systems work. Now you might be asking, hey, I think both families are dips, and I think there's more to this war than what's at face value. Well, you can pursue the Revelation storyline, the canonical story arc, by choosing to deny your fate and go on your own to learn the truth about yourself and the two warring lands. Revelations plays like the happy medium of Birthright and Conquest, allowing overworld grinding for those that like to prepare, and a healthy amount of unique map requirements and objectives, including what is probably one of my favorite levels in any Fire Emblem game I've played so far. It's basically Metal Gear Fire Emblem, and it is glorious. And with that, besides the characters you recruit in each game and other minor cosmetic differences, that is all that is different between the games, so let's talk everything else. The gameplay is pretty much copy-pasted from Awakening. That certainly isn't a bad thing, and to be very fair, the vast majority of the Fire Emblem games' gameplay are copy-pasted from each other, and I can't really fault Fates for that reason. What is different to the others, though, is that weapons don't lose durability. I didn't bring it up last time, but just to quickly say, older games' weapons could break if you use them too much, and it was stupid annoying. Here though, besides healing equipment, weapons don't break, and it was wholeheartedly welcome, by me at least. The strategy is still there, even with the lack of weapons snapping, so it's nice to focus on the characters themselves, which there are a lot of, especially in the Revelations version of the trio. Speaking of which, due to the tremendous amount of characters you can recruit, their personalities could be described as one-dimensional to compensate for it. It's certainly noticeable with most of the casts, but there is enough to learn about each character that building support isn't just for the stat boosts. But speaking of supports, the waifu simulator is back from Awakening, but it got a bit of a buff, if you will. Here's what I mean. In between missions, you can go back to your castle in a place between dimensions. Inside the place is a treehouse that you claim as your own personal headquarters. In here, you can pick from a randomly generated list of your party members to build support with without the need to actually be in battle with them. I really enjoyed this. It helped immensely with characters I didn't really like having near the front lines, which is where I usually had Corrin. However, if you get an S rank with a character, that person stays with you in your treehouse. That alone is enough to satisfy some weird, nerdy fantasies, mine included. But things take a turn for the weird the more time you spend with your significant other. By doing that, you unlock random events that can happen when you return to the treehouse from time to time, like tapping on that person's face to wake them up, or blowing into your 3DS to blow steam off them after they get out of the shower. What? You wouldn't believe the utter confusion and pure childlike chuckling I had the first time I had to blow on Kagero's face for the first time. I was hanging out with a group of friends at the time too, and they were giving me the strangest look as to why I was just laughing my ass off. And yes, my best girls were Kagero for Birthright, Camilla for Conquest, and Charlotte for Revelations, and I picked them for good reasons. I'm mature, I swear. Anyways, As completely odd as blowing on someone's face is that something couples even do? Is it sexy to blow on someone after they've just gotten out of the shower? Someone go give it a try and let me know. The whole thing is completely optional and invasive to you if you wanted to. It's always important to do the S ranks at least, that way you can get more child units, but you can always go through the game with the base cast if you want to. Now, the main reasoning behind my buying Birthright as my main physical copy wasn't due to being the easy mode, but because of the designs of the Hoshido units, and that ultimately translates to the rest of the units as well. The designs kick all kinds of butt, and although there are basically repeats of units just with different names based on if they're Nohr units or Hoshido ones, they no less look awesome and are useful in their own ways. And with the large amount of units you can recruit, it can make for some fun army configurations unique to how you want to play. And this game's music is fantastic, due to one of the main story-based characters, Azura, being a dancer-based class with singing instead. Music is a big presence throughout the game, with many different tracks and variations to them. I'm sure most are either tired or sick of hearing Lost in Thoughts All Alone, the main theme of Fates, but goddamn if it isn't a good song. All three variations while we're at it, but my particular favorite track would have to go to both variations of Road Taken. This is my go-to song for my calm down music back in my castle, and is a great rocking track when in the middle of battle. Now, I know I've all but glorified this game, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. There is some things to consider though. Being three different stories, only one of which having any major significance, causes some difficulties with character development. With Revelations, the main plot involving Corrin and Azura are put to the forefront, and pretty much every other character besides the princes takes a back seat to allow the land of Vala to get some structure and development with the plot. Birthright and Conquest are better suited to learn more about the characters between the support conversations and the main plot of those versions. That said though, Birthright and Conquest's plot are not only not canon, but are used as heavy foreshadowing for Revelations at best, and are completely messy and all over the place for its own story at worst. So what do I recommend then? Well, what's nice is at least it's a 3DS game, which are cheaper than most standard console games, and if you purchase the other versions on that one cartridge, you get them for a reduced price. So really, I'd play all three versions. The stories might be all over the place, but you are getting three full-blown games for about the price of a standard console game. So, absolutely play Birthright and Conquest to learn about the characters and Conquest's fun levels, and then take on Revelations with some knowledge of the characters in tow to get the most out of its story. But anywho, thanks guys so much for watching, and the next time we tackle a Fire Emblem game, we're going to take a step back, way back, to the Game Boy Advance, to the second Western Fire Emblem release, Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. Until then, I'll see you guys later.